Hello and welcome to the Now Spinning Magazine podcast with me, Phil Aston. And on this episode, I'm absolutely delighted to have with me Andy Scott from The Suite. Welcome, Andy. This is such an honor for me to have someone who's been a huge part of my childhood and musical history in front of me.
Yeah, I'm much appreciative of that. But I think probably Slade were part of your earlier years as well, weren't they? I don't know.
The three. Well, there were three. There was Slade, there was T-Rex, and there was Sweet. And then as a lot of kids of my age back then, we kind of then started to hop over to see what these bands called Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin were doing.
Yeah.
But we continued to buy those RCA singles because of what was on the B-side.
Yeah.
And it was like the bridge between the glam rock and the more serious bands was hiding in plain sight on these B-sides. Especially, I remember to this day, Andy, going around to my friend's house after school, and he said, "Phil, you've got to hear this." And it was Burn on the Flame. I still think that track is absolutely the dog's doodahs, really.
Right. Well, I'm very appreciative of that, and I have to say, people wanting to talk to me right now about the new album, to start with that is a good starting point, I think.
Yeah, and I deliberately have done that because when I listen to the new album, which is called Full Circle, it comes out on 20th of September. That to me, Burn on the Flame is almost like a bridge through the past into the now, because this album, I mean, the way it opens with Circus, that great guitar riff, soaring vocals from Paul, who obviously spent some time with Cats in Space as well, didn't he? It's fantastic. I mean, the whole album this is a real rock album, full of choruses, full of feel-good factor, with everything that's been going on around us in the world and on the news. This is like just what you need.
Well, the guys in Germany who look after our YouTube channel and digital stuff, when they said they came up with that old cliche, this is, I won't use a German accent, this is all killers, no fillers. And I went, well, that's really good to hear, because once they've got the vibe, we can now start trying to put the vibe into everybody. And you never know, this could be the moment when we haven't been in the German charts with an album proper for 20 years. So this could easily be our re-entry into something like that. I'm not sure whether we would ever enter the UK charts, even though we do enter all of the radio and iTunes and heritage charts on the internet. We do really well, but to actually get a look in while we've got Taylor Swift and people like that, it's never going to happen.
I think it's also people, and those of you listening and watching this, everybody, you might have a perception about, it's the Suite, and we all love those albums, but I just think everyone will be, don't mean to say surprised by how good this is, but I think it is that it's exceptional. If any other band had put an album out with this many, one track after the other, and whoever sequenced it really knew how to put together a party, because it opens really well. And I just want to touch on some of the tracks because Circus is one of my favorites. It's a great lyric. It's about pushing against the man, isn't it? It's really like, punch the air, and Paul Manzi's vocals are just stunning. I mean, he sounds like he's having an absolute ball. Don't Bring Me the Water as another. I love the way also, Andy, the use of keyboards, which is not overpowering. But it adds an extra texture, doesn't it?
Yeah, there are sounds that you will hear that aren't keyboards, that they're my guitars. They're not guitar synths.
Yeah.
I just do things where you'll hear things in the background. You think, that's a synth going. And I've been using things like harmonics and octaves.
Yeah.
and sticking them in like reverb effects, or but where you hear an organ, that is an organ.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other sounds are like 12-string guitars, or I've even got a guitar sitar that I've used for some of the what we call sproings.
Yeah.
So it fills the gap.
Yeah. And the third one is Burning Like a Falling Star. That was a single, wasn't it?
Yeah, in fact, that was the last single that's still going up, various internet charts. There's a new internet chart called the Heritage Chart with Mike Reed, which is pretty good and worth watching. You've got all kinds of... In fact, you've got Deep Purple in there at the moment.
Yeah, with their new album. Yeah.
Yeah, people like Toya Wilcox and with her husband...
Robert Fripp.
Yeah. And it's an interesting world that we live in. It's no longer, hopefully, no longer people being put in boxes. Let's put it that way.
I mean, writing this album, Andy, was it a kind of joint effort, or was everyone having an input into it, or?
Well, Tom, who is the co-producer with me, he and I wrote a fair bit. Paul and Lee, the bass player, have written 2 or 3 tracks. The drummer, Bruce played the majority of the tracks on this album, but he's now kind of retired.
Yeah,
he said he will come back when Adam can't do it anymore. If for some reason Adam says, "Look, I need those 2 weeks," he would come back and play with us.
Do it, yeah.
Now Adam wrote one of the songs called Coming Home.
Oh, yeah.
And he played drums on that. And it's hard to tell from listening to him that it isn't Bruce. It's quite well disguised, should we say. And so there's me and Tom, Paul and Lee, and Adam, who've all contributed. We've also picked a couple of songs, like Don't Bring Me Water was written by a songwriter friend of mine that I have lunch with a couple of times a year. And there's another song on there, Defender. That was
that's a good one. Yeah,
that was written by a guy in New York, Neil Cohen. He's got a Grammy and a few other things, and we just picked his song, and he said it would be a pleasure if we recorded it. So yeah, look, I'm not afraid to record anybody's song if it's good enough. Now there's no point in saying I must write everything.
Well, you wouldn't know from listening to this album, and since it was sent to me to have a listen to, it's been on constant replay.
That's nice. Yeah, thank you.
And seriously, Andy, and also the fact that it sounds like it's been written by the same person all the way through. It just sounds so cohesive. I put down one of them, is it Rising Up? I put wow when the chorus came on. It's...
Yeah.
These are real earworms.
Well, Rising Up is one of Paul and Lee's, and Lee has a habit of coining like a set of chords, and it's so easy to put a guitar riff on. Do you know what I mean?
It's,
yeah. And he's they're all talented lads, and I'm, as I say, I'm very excited to actually have a band that who all want to contribute and can contribute. It's none of them have this. I'm only here to play the bass, or I'm only here to sing. They all have this cohesive thing of being in the band, and it's the only way it can work,
Yeah, and talking to guitarists, Destination Hanover, that's got a great guitar riff. That's a real Friday night song. It's a real, reminds me of coming home and getting ready to go out on a Friday or Saturday night. It's one of those songs you'd have on in the bedroom before you left the house. It's brilliant. Well,
the origin of that song is way back in the 90s when I was spending a lot of time in Hanover. I came up with the title Destination Hanover because I was forever getting on a train or a plane or a band bus, and of course there were other bands who lived in Hanover at that time, like the Scorpions and Michael Schenker and things like this. And I used to kind of bump into them on a regular basis. And it never got to the point where anything got done. And I resurrected the original demo, and well, here we are with it. I mean, I think it's I think it's turned into a cracking song. It was a little bit of a jam, the demo, but it had to be because it was just an idea, if you know what I mean. But now it's turned into something very, very cohesive, and I never envisaged the chorus being as harmonied as that. But when we started to do it, I thought this lends itself to harmonies, and we filled it with harmonies, you know.
Well, I mean, all of the songs have got great harmonies, and you mentioned early Defender. I also like that one because it's got that kind of twang on the guitar. That one's got a different feel on the guitar. Is that yourself or?
It's Dwayne Eddy.
Yeah,
you know, the old Dwayne Eddy thing. Yeah. It's when we first grabbed hold of it, it didn't really have that down. It didn't really have that. And it was Lee who started to play on the bass, and I went, I'm going to follow that because, you know, it's a guitar riff, not really just a bass riff, and it's worked really well. Yeah, very much.
And are you still using the Strat? Is that still your main guitar?
On this, we've used a myriad of guitars. I've got Tom's used a Telecaster.
Oh yeah.
But it's a Telecaster
tweaked.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so are my Strats, really. But we've also used a Gretsch here and there. I've also got some Dan Electros 12 strings and the guitar sitar. And and Tom is also in the background. You wouldn't really notice it, but take it away and you would notice it. We've got one of these baritone guitars, and he's doubled what the bass does with this baritone guitar here and there, you know, and it's really quite good. And we've tried to keep the keyboard parts fairly simplistic, you know, rather than make them big features, you know.
Well, I was just about to say that this is all about the songs. The songs are that's the main focus. This isn't about the guitar solos or keyboard breaks. Everything is geared around the wonderful choruses and the melodies. This album is full of melodies, but equally, it's like it's like those bands that have come out of Sweden, like Eclipse and WET, and bands like it's like an 80s rock feel, but it's 2024, and the whole band sounds really hungry for. Sounds like a first album, to be honest, Andy.
Well, we definitely want to make an impact with this if we can. The Full Circle song,
that's a good one.
It has to come last because it has my dulcet tones spouting the poetry that I wrote for the ending. And if you put it anywhere else, because I tried it in a couple of places, and nothing can follow that.
No, it's great. You know? Epic chorus in that one. Absolutely epic. Now, after all of me saying all of this, it does say on the press release that was sent to me that this Full Circle will be Sweet's final studio album, and then it says ever.
Right. When you start talking to people, especially PR people, many months ago, and you're having a little bit more treatment for your cancer.
Yes, of course, yes.
And someone says, is this going to be the last album? I went, well, it could be. you know, I mean, I hope it isn't. It's like somebody saying, are you going to be touring next year? And I said, well, hopefully. You know, I mean, what can you do? It's so I think when somebody tries to hang, I don't know, they're looking for an angle.
Yeah.
And they find that angle by saying this is the last, and they could be right. So what I'm saying is, don't be fooled into thinking that it is the last album, because it could be the last album. You know, and if it is, then I want it to be a doozy of an album. I want it to be the one, you know. And I think I really do think that we've pulled out all the stops and we've done the best that we can. And if this doesn't go or get airplay, then I don't know how much more I can do.
I don't think there's anything musically more you could do on this. I think I think people will be amazed by how great this is as a rock album. It's like it's like you want to put it on and say to people, who do you think this is? Or no, rather, listen to this and tell me what you think. And then I think people just say, wow, who is that? That's going to be one of the best rock albums I've heard this year. It's The Sweet.
Right. Well, I have to say, I've been sending tracks out to some of my friends, and all I've had back is positive stuff, because they still know that I produce from time to time other bands.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, there are a couple who've basically gone, so that's what you're up to, but I've had a few other people go, that's really fantastic. I think that'll be successful. And then I go back to them and say, that's our new album. And they go, wow, so, it's good to hear that we're not the only ones thinking this way.
Absolutely not. Honestly, it's brilliant. Now, I know that. I mean, you've had prostate cancer, and obviously you still have checkups and that. And I know you do a fundraiser, don't you, for the Bristol and Western Hospitals charity, Above and Beyond. Can you just say a little bit about that as well? Because I think that it's important, because obviously a big chunk of the demographic that are fans of The Sweet need to make sure they look after themselves as well, don't they?
Well, the whole starting point of getting involved with, the Cancer UK, wearing the little man badge, is the fact that hopefully more do, but it never used to. I'm not peeing too good today. That's the time. Go and get a test. Because the sooner it's caught, the sooner you could be clear forever. That's it. I was at a point where, in 2009, where they reckon it had been going for 4 or 5 years, and I was at a T3 point of view, which is quite far down the line, but it hadn't gone out. It hadn't escaped. It was still where it should be.
Yeah.
In that one spot. And I had some very drastic treatment, which killed it off. And then I've been having a little bit of backup radiotherapy here and there. So here I am, 15 years on.
Wow.
Still here. It does make an appearance once every 2 or 3 years. I can see that the PSA's moved. And the first thing they'll have me is on that PET scan, the machines where they can see everything. And I've got a brilliant, this is why I want to be involved with their new robotics and R&D center at Bristol. I just want to raise money for them.
Of course.
Because, I could be there, couldn't I?
Yeah, exactly.
In the not too distant future. But that isn't the reason why I'm doing it. It's because without them, I wouldn't be here. And so I've never had chemo. That if one can say, if there's anything positive to come out of this. And I remember the first thing I said to the oncologist, that I said, well, I'm in your hands now, Amit. And I said to him, at least I might lose a little bit of weight. And he went, wrong cancer for that, Andy. And I went, oh, nice. He was me thinking I might get back to a svelte 12 stone or something, And he said, no, he said, you'll have to do something about that, which did make me laugh. But then, you've got to keep it light. And the other thing is, one of my best friends, when he heard that I'd had it, that I was diagnosed, he said, right, I suppose we better go shopping. And I went, why? He went, well, we better go and buy some hats. Because he thought,
because of the hair,
I'm going to lose all my hair, and I didn't. So, but convalescing in California for a few months certainly turned my hair this color, and I can see Did you put that down to the California sun, or have you always been there?
No, yeah, this happened about 20 years ago, actually. So
Oh,
it's
right.
probably all the chemicals I put on it in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
But obviously none of this has slowed you down, because you've got your tour starts September the 20th. And you've got 15 dates, and you've got 14 dates in Australia, then another 6 dates in the UK. Right up to Christmas. I mean, that's well busy.
Yeah, but there's gaps. I can come home.
Yeah.
It's not. I did say, if you start thinking that I'm going to be getting in a car or a band bus and being on the road and away from home for 6 weeks, it ain't going to happen. We have to work things out. Now, you don't go all the way to Australia and come home halfway through and then go back. So we're having to suck that up a little bit. But I've made sure that we have days off between gigs and things like that. I know the promoter is well into it, and it's probably one of the reasons why he's going to look after us more than, should we say, what we're going to earn. I'd rather it be that way and have everything right, rather than him scrimp and save and make us get in, as we said, overnight buses and things like that. Because Australia is a bloody big place. You have to fly, and you have to make sure that you can't go from somewhere like Melbourne to Adelaide and expect to play a gig that night. There's got to be a day off between. It's the only way. And if you're going out to Perth, it's two time zones away. So
yeah. I think a lot of people don't realise that. Now, probably my next question is probably the trickiest question for you to answer, in a way, because this album is stunning. But you also have a back catalogue that people know so well they could sing it, off the top of their head after, coming home from the pub at night. How you? I mean, are you going to be able to put some of these in the set?
The quick answer is yes.
Excellent.
But the other guys have got to know that if we do that, their little favourites might have to take a back seat, because you can't play everything.
No, you can't.
And we're playing probably on the. We're going to be doing an hour and a half plus sets.
Yeah, it's a good length set. Yeah.
Yeah, which means that we'll be able to add two without too much of a problem, because there's always a song like AC/DC or something like that, or Burn on the Flame, as you said, that can be replaced. We've already started to put Don't Bring Me Water changes. No, not changes. Circus.
Yeah. Oh, that's got to be in.
And everything into the song, into the set. We've been using, because we haven't had time to work out how to do it, we've been using Full Circle as a kind of intro tape, where you get the vibe of what the tour's all about, and then my words at the end, and the last thing you hear is Full Circle, and then the band come on stage. So we're slowly, morphing into. And if this album is successful, then why wouldn't there be a Full Circle tour next year performing most of the songs from the album?
That sounds fantastic. Oh, I mean, because you mentioned everything. I love the lovely guitar at the start of that. It's just, and it's such an emotive, passionate song as well. Great driving riff as well. I could just dip in to any track off of this.
Well, it's really good to hear this. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love it. I'm also so pleased to ask the question that it sounds like it might not be the final Sweet album, but I think you'd have to go some to top this in a way. This is just, although having said that, the whole band sounds like a bunch of guys who've got together for the first time and are so excited that this is the debut album. That's what that's how it feels.
Yeah. Well, for the first time in a long time, I don't remember doing. Oh yeah, I think we did it once or twice with Mick Tucker, where he put the drums on last. But for the first time, a lot of the drums on this album were put on after we'd recorded the track. And Bruce, who did a lot of those tracks, loved it because he said, for the first time, I'm hearing a song that's almost complete, whereas normally I'm thrashing along with the rest of you. And then when I hear the vocal, I said, oh, I should have done that there.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what happened. We had like a guide drum track, and then he put the drums on, towards the end. So, it kind of worked really well. And of course, we my living room in the barn here is turned into a rehearsal studio when the band are down. So we did a lot of that. We did a lot of like live rehearsals with this stuff. So,
I wonder if that's probably part of it, because I talk to so many people where the albums are recorded where everyone's in a separate part of the world, and everyone. I understand that must save so much money on hotel bills and airplanes and everything, but this does sound like everyone's looking at each other. There's a real live feel in this, and it is the little inflections in the music.
Well, I like to have the guys here when we're recording vocals, because as the producer, sometimes it's quite nice to just, not always, if things are going brilliantly, you don't say a word, but once in a while you go, try that vocally, and I've produced Susie Quattro a couple of times.
Oh yeah,
and she I'm thinking to myself, when I first got involved, I'm not the kind of bloke to keep me trap shut, but I remember thinking, do I tell Miss Quattro that you were slightly out of tune there? and I did. I went, I think there's a better one there. And the tuning wasn't fantastic. And she said, oh, great, let's move on. And afterwards, I remember, a little while later when we got all the vocals down, I said, was it all right me chirping in? And she said, you're the producer. And she is a workaholic, and there's no Mike Chapman can be a slave driver. He can be quite no, you haven't quite got it yet. Whereas me, I would come back to something if they haven't quite got it. I wouldn't just drive it there and then.
Yeah. Because
that person in an hour's time is going to be quite tired. Let's get the rest of it done, and then let's return to that bit,
Yeah, good. Yeah. Yes, excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Andy. And the album is just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely love it. So the tour is starting really quickly, isn't it? Saturday, September the 7th is the first gig?
Yes, we're playing the
Shepton Mallet.
Yes, Shepton Mallet Showgrounds at Bath and West. I know it sounds funny, but it's the Motorhomes, Caravans and Camping exhibition. And it's a huge area.
Yeah.
And we're playing in the arena inside, which holds probably about 1,000, 1,200 people. And it's just down the road from me. So,
it's perfect, isn't it? And then you're off to Germany straight soon after that. So that's a good warm-up.
Yeah, a couple of weeks later. We've got, because we've got the guys in Germany who are doing all the digital stuff. One of the guys knows somebody at, because there's a song called Destination Hanover, he sent them Destination Hanover, the song, to the football club, Hanover.
Yeah.
And before we start the tour in Berlin, I'm flying over to Hanover to go to the match and be interviewed by a top DJ from their area before the match, and just kind of, and they're going to be playing Destination Hanover, and I'm going to thank them. And then I'm getting on a train to go to join the rest of the band in Berlin. So,
that's got to help with getting it out there, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. And of course, you can make big, like a decent press release from something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
And then I'll probably say something like in the press, maybe we should do a Destination Hamburg and a Destination Munich.
Which sounds like it's not your last album.
It does, doesn't it? Great.
Well, thanks very much, Andy. The album Full Circle is out on the 20th September 2024, and it's one of the best rock albums of 2024. It's just stunning. So thank you so much, and hopefully you do a full tour on this next year. And hopefully I'll talk to you again in the future. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, as I say, keep in touch. Okay?
Will do. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks, Andy. Bye-bye. Bye. A huge thank you to my guest, Andy Scott from The Suite. That was a dream come true to me to talk to Andy from The Suite. But I've got to say this, and I know I'm saying really enthusiastic, but you've got to listen to this new album, Full Circle by The Suite. You are going to be amazed. This really is one banging track after another. And Andy said that, cliche, all killer and no filler. It really is. If I say this album should have been released, it sounds like an 80s rock album. It's an AOR melodic rock classic. You'll think I'm sticking it in that decade. I'm not. There are new bands like Tempt and Vega doing fantastic melodic rock, really stadium anthems, anthemic choruses, great guitar riffs, all about the song in 2024. And this is one of them. Anyone thinking that The Suite is all about looking backwards, this is looking forwards. And I'm so pleased. I spoke to Andy and said, it says on the press release, this is your last album ever, because this sounds like a band that's completely on fire. It sounds like a debut album. It sounds like a new beginning. But listen to it. It's out the 20th of September. And obviously you'll discover this video and podcast way after that date. Stream it and see what you think. It's a great album, and it will be in it's certainly going to be in my top 20 albums of 2024. It's fantastic. But remember, after you have streamed it, buy a CD or buy a vinyl copy and help and support the musicians that create this wonderful music for us all to listen to. So thanks again to Andy, and check out The Suite at thesuite.com. You can see all their dates. You can buy music, listen, loads of videos on the YouTube channel as well. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Keep spinning those discs. Subscribe. Check out the Now Spinning Magazine YouTube channel, the website, the podcast. Become a patron, a YouTube member. Buy some merch. We have T-shirts and all sorts of things. But listen to The Suite. Take care, all of you, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.